If the snow is very strong, it will be well and good. But however, if the snow, even if it is going to melt, and below if it is going to be rock, it will be so strong that they can climb up, right? So in that Edmund Hillary used to find such places, and only then he used to nail it up. It was a great thrill to look straight down this enormous rock face and to see 8,000 feet below us. So usually, yes, right, when we go to a very a place where it is very high, after that when we look down, it is like a thrilling, right? Whichever the hills you go up, and when you see down, look down, you see many villages or many things which looks very very tiny. So it creates a thrilling feeling for you. Similarly, these two people are climbing up and they are looking down. How many feet down? 8,000 feet down, and they feel so thrilled. 8,000 feet below us, the tiny tents of Camp 4 in the western Camp-in, scrambling on the rocks and cutting handholds on the snow, we were able to shuffle past these difficult portions. So, they're seeing down, as I said earlier, when you climb up the high hills and when you look down, all the places or the cars or the villages or the houses or the huts or even the paddy fields look so tiny. Similarly, these people also, as they climb up 8,000 feet high and when they look down 8,000 feet below, there they could see the camp which has been camped by the other colleagues, right? So his friends, their friends, two people also went back to the other camp, right? So they were watching that camp and it looks very very tiny. In the which side? Actually in the western side. Scrambling on the rocks. So scrambling, you might have seen the worm, right? The worm was used to walk, right? First it used to lift its middle part of the body, and it brings both the upper part and bottom part together. So it is trying to move. In Tamil we'll say oorndu. So in such a way they are scrambling on the rocks and cutting handholds on the snow. Handholds, so to hold it, you might have seen the people who's trekking on the hills, or nowadays even we have the trekking experiences indoor also. In that place you might have seen a small holes where they used to keep their fingers inside and they lift their whole body with that pressure, with your hands pressure, right? So like that hand holds they are cutting, and we were able to shuffle past these difficult portions. So that difficult part of the snow they have crossed. On the east side was another great cornice, and running up the full 40 feet of steps was a narrow crack between the cornice and the rock. So what he says, now we are again traveling, and but there nearly 40 feet of step, it was so narrow. What do you mean by the narrow? Narrow is very thin pathway. What is a broad then? It is a thicker broad way. In Tamil you will say agalamana broad, narrow kurugalana. Yes. So there is a narrow crack between the cornice and the rock. So can you see here? There is a crack. Okay, so there is a crack between the rocks. So it is very very risky. You know, right? Suddenly it may open up and we may fall inside. So in such a way, such a risky way they are traveling, leaving tendency to belay me. As best he could, I jammed my way into this crack. So first Edmund Hillary is crossing the crack. Then kicking backward, I sank the spikes of my crampons deep into the frozen snow behind me and levered myself off the ground. So he's telling, he is fixing the crampons and he is climbing from one way to the other way. And how he was moving? He was levered myself off the ground. He was crawling off the ground, taking advantage of every little rock hole and all the force of knee. You know knee, right? As I said, crawling na, most power will be in the knee. So taking advantage of every rock hold. What do you mean by that? Every rock hold. If there is a small holding like structure or பிடிச்சிக்கிற மாதிரி ஏதாவது, okay, so he will take advantage of everything and he used to hold it tight, and also using the knees power he is traveling, he is scrolling shoulder and arm. Not only the knees power, he is also taking the help of shoulder and arm. I would muster, I literally cramponed backwards up the crack. So he's telling he's not moving upwards. See, when you climb a ladder, initially you'll be climbing straight forwards, right? But when you climb down, you'll climb at the backward direction. So here Edmund Hillary is also crossing the crack backwards. Crossing the crack backwards. Can you understand? Up the crack, praying that the chronosis would remain attached to the rock. So he's praying to the god that till we cross. Till who is we here? Tenzing and Edmund Hillary. Till they both cross, he prays to God that the chronosis, let them be holding together. If they leave the way, what will happen? They will fall under the pit. My progress, although slow, was steady. So he says, as though I am walking very slowly, but I was taking a steady step. As Tenzing paid out the rope, I inched my way upward until I could reach over the top of the rock and drag myself out of the rock onto a wide ledge. Finally, what happened? As Tenzing paid out the rope, as Tenzing was putting out the rope, he have put a path to the crack, and he is letting a way for Tenzing. For a few moments, I lay regaining my breath, and for the first time really felt the fierce determination that nothing now could stop us reaching the top. So now he feels that I have crossed a very difficult portion of the summit. So after crossing, he is lying down on the snow and he is taking a deep breath. Yes, of course, when we do a very exciting thing, we cannot say exciting thing, when we do a thing which is very, very impossible thing. After finishing a very impossible thing in a very difficult way, what we will do? We will just lie down and we will take a deep breath. For example, if you run, okay, for a very important thing, if you are running, and after some time, after finishing your work, for example, think that your father have forgotten his lunch and your mom is asking you to run and hand over to the father who is driving a bike and he crossed your area. What you would do? You may take your cycle or you may be running towards your father, right? So once you reach to your father and hand over the lunch, and when you get back, what you will do? You will go directly to the bed and you lie down and take a deep breaths, right? Which means your heart is beating so fast that you have done something exciting. So in such way, who is doing this? Edmund Hillary is having a deep breath and he is taking some rest, and at that moment he feels that if I could cross such a very heavy portion, very risky portion, then he says that then nothing can stop them to reach the final summit. This is what they think. I took my firm stance on the ledge and signaled to Tenzing to come on up. So now he is going up and he is asking Tenzing to take his step upwards. As I heaved hard on the rope, Tenzing wriggled his way up the crack and finally collapsed at the top like a giant fish when it has just been hauled from the sea after a terrible struggle. So as he was holding, Edmund Hillary was holding the rope so tight, as I said, Tenzing was wriggling up. What do you mean by wriggling up? You might have seen, right, when somebody is doing a fishing, the worms would be wriggling. Spring, you know, right? It moves up and down. So that movement is called as a wriggling movement. So he was wriggling up the crack. He is moving up and down and he is trying to climb up the rope, and he finally reached the top of the rock, and like a giant fish, what he is doing? He is jumping up onto the plain surface and he is lying down again. The ridge continued as before, giant crowns on the right, steep rocks sloped on the left. So now what happened? The ridge, the narrow ridge is still continuing. So one side there was a cornice. Cornice is a long break. There is a break, okay, crack, exactly, big crack towards the right, and the slow steep rock நல்ல ஆழமான சாய்வான, okay, steep rock sloped on the left. The ridge curved away to the right and we have no idea where the top was. So they were going on traveling up and up. Curved na, you know, right, in the Ooty or the Kodaikanal we will travel round and round and round. So in such a way they are traveling. They don't know which was the top. As they cut around the back of one hump, another higher one would swing into the view. So when he was going to cut a hump, which means he is cutting to travel up. When he was cutting there, he used to see another higher portion. Again he used to cut there, and they are going up and up. Time was passing and the ridge seemed never ending. So as the time was moving, they were going on traveling. They feel that there going to be never end for that summit. Our original zest had now quite gone and it was turning more into a grim struggle. So original enthusiasm what they had is little bit going down, and now they are having a little bit of struggle in traveling. I then realized that the ridge ahead, instead of rising, now dropped sharply away. So he says that now the path which is moving up and up, now it is not going up, it is suddenly falling down. I looked upwards to see a narrow snow ridge running up to a snowy summit. Now what happened when he was looking up? Now he sees that what? There was a narrow snow ridge running up to a snowy summit. So the narrow ridge, snowy ridge, now it is turning to a high hill summit. A few more whacks of ice axe in the firm snow and we stood on the top. Finally, what happened? They came to the top of the summit. My first feelings were of relief that were no more steps to cut. So initially what he thinks, thank God I reached the top of the summit. Now I need not cut any more paths. No more ridges to traverse and no more humps to tantalize us and hope of success. Tantalizes is frightening. So he says that again, nothing is going to frighten them. Now, we need not cut a rock hereafter. We need not walk on the ridges hereafter. Finally, what happened? These two people have reached the top of the summit. With what? With the hope of success. I looked at Tenzing. In spite of Balkaleva helmet, goggles and oxygen mask, all encrusted with the long icicles that concealed his face, there was no disguising his grin of delight as he looked all around him. So now Edmund Hillary is looking at Tenzing with a happy mood. And what happened to Tenzing? Tenzing was wearing all the dresses or a type of costumes which they have to wear to traverse up the type of a dress that they have to wear to travel in the hill. So they have covered completely with the Balkaleva helmet. You know the helmet what they wear in the snowy climate, which will have the opening for the glass opening for the eyes, and the mask is inbuilt for them, right? So with that, goggles, he was wearing a goggle and an oxygen mask. So it has totally covered Tenzing. It is so difficult for us to understand the emotions of the people when they wear such a costume. But however, Edmund Hillary, through the eyes of Tenzing, he was able to feel the delight, the happiness what the Tenzing was feeling. How he was feeling? He was looking around happily. See, for example, when we take a small baby, when a boy or a girl who is celebrating the birthday, when they wear a new dress, what they do? Excitedly, they will be looking around, right? Looking around their dresses. In the same way, Tenzing is also looking around. So it shows that he was so delightful. And what happened to the costume? It was totally covered with the icicles. We shook hands and then Tenzing threw his arm around my shoulders and we thumped each other on the back until we are almost breathless. Now both are shaking their hands and they are putting their arms around the shoulders and they are thumbsing up. Both are showing the victory signs to each other. It was 11:30 a.m. At what time? 11:30 a.m. The rich had taken us 2.5 hours, but it seemed like a lifetime. They say that it took only how many hours? 2.5 hours, but they feel it was a complete lifetime walk in their life. To the east was our Jain neighbor Makalu, unexplored and unclimbed. So, to their east side, they could see Makalu, and that mountain has not been explored. Nobody have reached there, or it had not been climbed up there. Far away across the clouds, the great bulk of Kanchenjunga loomed on the horizon. So, there was in far away distance, still far away, they could see what a Kanchenjunga loomed on the horizon. It was lying on the horizon. Horizon? What is horizon? Yeah, we will be seeing a merging of the earth and the sky. Okay, that is called as a horizon. To the west, we could see the great unexplored ranges of Nepal stretching off into the distance. Towards the west, when they see an unexplored range of Nepal. So the summit is Indian summit. Now they are seeing the Nepalese summit, which has been not explored, which is stretching off, which is lengthening off at the distance. The most important photograph I felt was a shot down the north ridge showing the North Colonel and the old route which had been made famous by the struggles of those great climbers of 1920s and 1930s. So he says we took many photographs, and out of that one was very important, which was shot where at the northern ridge, showing what northern curl and the old route which is being traversed by the old climbers in the year which year 1920 to 1930. After 10 minutes I realized that I was becoming rather clumsy fingered and slow moving, so I quickly replaced my oxygen set. So after 10 minutes what happened, he feels that he was clumsy fingered, his fingers are becoming slow and he was slow in moving, so immediately he is changing the oxygen set, oxygen mask. Sorry, hold on. Meanwhile, Tenzing had made a little hole in the snow, and in it he placed a various small articles of food. So what Tenzing is doing, he is making a small hole in the snow, and in it he is placing a very small articles of food. So he is placing the articles which he brought, the food articles which he brought to the summit. In that, what was there? A bar of chocolate, a packet of biscuits, and a handful of lollies. So he is keeping a chocolate packet and a biscuit packet and the lollipops. Small offerings indeed, but at least a token of gift to the god that all devout Buddhists believe that their home on this lofty summit. So he is giving an offerings to the god. He is giving small offerings to the god, and there is also a belief called what? The Buddhist monks used to live there in the summit. So he is leaving an offering for them. While we were together on the South Colonel 2 days before, sorry, while we were together on the South Colonel 2 days before. So, before 2 days, they were in the South Colonel. Colonel Hunt had given me a small crucifix which he had asked me to take to the top. So, he says that Headman Hillary says that when they were down to South Colonel, and I already told you, two of the colleagues got back. Out of that, Colonel Hunt had given him the small crucifix which he had asked me to keep at the top of the summit. So he asked Colonel Hunt, he said that though I was not able to travel up, he said to Headman Hillary that please you carry on my crucifix and keep at the top. I too made a hole in the snow and placed the crucifix beside Tenzing's gift. So he is also placing that, leaving an offering to the god, or we can say that Colonel Hunt's desire, his Aase we say, right? Desire. So that has been also fulfilled. After 15 minutes, I moved down off the summit. Hold on. After 15 minutes, I'd moved down off the summit onto our steps. Wasting no time, we carried on along our tracks, spurred by the urgency of diminishing oxygen. So, after 15 minutes of staying up there, they started immediately to come down, and they haven't wasted any time. They have just put a tracks and they came down immediately because the oxygen is diminishing. What do you mean by the word diminishing? It is reducing. We scrambled cautiously over the rocks traverse, moved one at a time over the shaky snow section, and finally caraped up our steps and back on the south peak. So as I already said, scrambled na like a worm. They are like a worm. They are traveling and they come down. Sorry, they came down and they have reached the south peak. We were now very tired but moved down to the two reverse cylinders on the ridge. As we were only a short distance from the camp and had a few liters of oxygen left in one our own bottles, we carried the extra cylinders down and reached our tent in the crazy platform at 2 p.m. So though they were tired, they are moving slowly, and they also very known that the cylinders they don't have cylinders left. The cylinders which they were wearing, the oxygen is not left, but they have a cylinder, two cylinders in their hand for the they have in their hand. If the oxygen goes away, they can use that cylinders. With the last look at the camp at 2 p.m., what did they do? They have reached the bottom camp. With the last look at the camp that had served us so well, we turned downwards with dragging feet and set ourselves to the task of safely descending the ridge to the Colonel 7. So South Colonel. So camp 8 is where they have started traveling. So they came to their camp there finally, and they are looking at the camp, conveying thanks to the camp. They are moving down and finally they reached the South Colonel. The time passed as in a dream. Two figures came towards us and met us. So as they came down, two figures coming and meeting them, a couple of 100 feet above the camp. They were George Lowe and Wilfred Noyes. See these two people. Who are they? George Lowe and Wilfred Noyes, laden with a hot soap and an emergency oxygen. So these two people are on seeing us reaching towards the South Colonel. They are coming towards them, and immediately they are bringing a hot soup. Yes, so they have traveled for a very long time in the cold, so their body may be so cold. So they want to give a warmth to them. So they are these two people. Who are they? George Lowe and Wilfred Noyes are giving a hot soup, and also they are bringing an emergency oxygen. Why is it so? Because they already know that there may be oxygen in the tank or may not be oxygen in the tank. So for a safety purpose, they are bringing an oxygen tank to them. Just short of the tent, my oxygen ran out. Yes, what happened to Edmund Hillary? When he was very coming close to the camp, his oxygen tank have ran out. Ran out means what? It has gone out. It has been exhausted. Nothing was there. We had enough to do the job, but by no means too much. So he says that yes, we have did the job. We have did a very great job, but he says that is not enough. We crawled into the tent and with a sigh of delight collapsed into our sleeping bags while the tents flapped and shook under the perpetual South Colonel gale. What is a gale? Ice, breezy air. Ice air. Okay. So he says that so they were so tired, so they were crawling into the tent, and especially they are going into their sleeping bag to keep themselves warm. John Hunt, who led the expedition, states that, so John Hunt, this is a man who have started the expedition, so he is telling that it was an unforgettable day. They had climbed to the top. There were shouts of joy, handshakes and hugs for the two heroes. So everybody are happy. From their camp, two people reached the summit and they were very, very happy. They are hugging these two people and shaking their hands, and they are considering these two people as two heroes. Their happiness and the pride showed how these men had shared in the achievement that was brilliantly concluded by Tenzing and Hilary. So he says that these two people's happiness and pride, everything is being shared by the whole team. The whole team feels that they have achieved it brilliantly, and they appreciate the determinations of Tenzing and Hilary. The adventure was over. The story of the ascent of Everest is one of the comradeship and teamwork. Comradeship, what do you mean comrade? We can say, in Tamil we say, right, Veeramana. So that is what, okay, comradeship and teamwork. It is not an individual's victory. It is a teamwork formed through dangers and difficulties met and overcome together. So he says that everybody, the whole team is facing a difficulty and whole team is overcoming the difficulty. Only then they could achieve this victory. So though the whole team cannot go up, a part of a team, though they went and reached, it is the victory of the whole team. Perhaps after climbing off this great mountain, others will find their own Everest, for there are still many opportunities for adventure. So he says that for them, this summit feels like a Everest. They have reached the Everest. So he says that these many are there, many people outside are there. For them, the thing what they achieve in their life is also an Everest. It doesn't mean that I have to climb up a mountain, only then I can say that I have reached the Everest. It's not like that. Anything which has been determined by me and which has been achieved by me, I have to feel that I have achieved a Everest, and it is not enough. We have to go for the another target. So on reaching that target, we should feel that we achieved the Everest. Some are close at hand, others are far away in distant lands. Not all the adventures are exciting. So not all the adventures are happy giving or happy ending. Nor is adventure to be found only upon the mountain. As I said, adventure, we can do only the adventures in the mountain. No, it's wrong. There are Everests to be climbed in our everyday life. So as I said, everybody is having some target in our life. That target itself is an Everest for us people. Given the selflessness and resolve which enabled men to climb Everest, there is no height, no depth that the spirit of man guided by a higher spirit cannot attain. So he says that given the selflessness, we have to give the selflessness. We shouldn't have that. We should have a determination. Whence, if we are going to have, and we should resolve, we should have a resolution that I must achieve the target. So when we are going to have such thought, and there will be no height for us and no depth for us. So only the spirit which I have to achieve. What spirit I should have? I should have the spirit that I want to achieve. If I am going to have that spirit, and if I am being guided by the higher spirit, I should also have the power of God, blessings of God. Then surely I can attain anything. There is nothing can be left which cannot be attained. I hope you people understood the lesson. A digital copy of this lesson will be sent to you people in this session, today's session. So I want you people to write down the synonyms 3 times and read out the synonyms. So tomorrow there will be a small test in the next session. I'm not telling tomorrow. The next English session you will be writing a test in the synonyms, and then we will move ahead with the poem. Thank you children. Have a nice day.